On November 24, 1971, a man walked into an airport in Portland, Oregon. He bought a one-way ticket to Seattle for $20. He looked like a normal businessman. Suit, tie, sunglasses. He ordered a bourbon and soda. He sat quietly in seat 18C. But this man was about to pull off the only unsolved skyjacking in the history of American aviation. He didn't scream. He didn't wave a gun around. He simply handed a note to a flight attendant that said, "Miss, I have a bomb." What happened next is a story so crazy, so perfect, and so mysterious that the FBI is still scratching their heads 50 years later. Who was he? Did he survive the jump? And where is the money? This is the true story of the man we call D.B. Cooper. If you love unsolved mysteries, hit that like button so we can find the truth together. And subscribe if you want more stories like this. Let's take off. Chapter 1. The Quiet Passenger. It was Thanksgiving Eve, 1971. The airport was busy. A man identifying himself as Dan Cooper boarded Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 305. The plane was a Boeing 727. It was a short 30-minute flight from Portland to Seattle. The plane was only about one-third full. Cooper sat in the back row. He was a middle-aged man, maybe in his mid-40s. He wore a dark suit, a white shirt, a black tie with a mother-of-pearl tie clip, and dark sunglasses. He carried a black attaché case, briefcase. He was polite. He didn't look nervous. He lit a cigarette, smoking was allowed back then, and ordered a drink. Shortly after takeoff, at around 3 p.m., Cooper handed a note to a young flight attendant named Florence Schaffner. Schaffner was used to businessmen flirting with her. She thought Cooper was just giving her his phone number. She took the note and put it in her purse without reading it. Cooper leaned forward. He whispered politely, "Miss, you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb." Schaffner froze. She opened the note. It was written in neat, all-capital letters with a felt-tip pen. It read something like, "I have a bomb in my briefcase. I will use it if necessary. I want you to sit next to me. You are being hijacked." Schaffner did as she was told. She sat next to him and asked to see the bomb. Cooper calmly opened his briefcase. Inside, she saw 8 red cylinders, like dynamite, attached to wires and a battery. It looked real. Cooper then gave his demands. He didn't want political prisoners released. He didn't want to fly to Cuba. He wanted something simple. $200,000 in cash. That's about $1.3 million today. He requested it in negotiable American currency, unmarked $20 bills. 4 parachutes, 2 main chutes, 2 reserve chutes. A fuel truck standing by in Seattle to refuel the plane upon arrival. He told the flight attendant to take these demands to the captain. Chapter 3. The Calmest Criminal. The captain, William Scott, contacted air traffic control. The authorities in Seattle immediately agreed to cooperate. They didn't want to risk the lives of the 36 passengers on board. For the next 2 hours, the plane circled over Seattle while the FBI scrambled to get the money and the parachutes. Inside the plane, the passengers had no idea they were being hijacked. The pilot told them over the intercom that they were circling due to a minor mechanical difficulty. Cooper was incredibly calm. He ordered another bourbon and soda. He paid his tab and even insisted that the flight attendant keep the change. He checked his watch. He looked out the window. He wasn't sweating. He wasn't shaking. He knew exactly what he was doing. When the flight attendant asked him if he had a grudge against the airline, he simply replied, "I don't have a grudge against your airline, miss. I just have a grudge." Chapter 4. The Exchange. At 5:39 p.m., the plane landed in Seattle. It was dark and raining. Cooper demanded that the plane park in a remote section of the runway. He ordered the lights inside the cabin to be turned off so police snipers couldn't shoot him. Operations went smoothly. The FBI delivered a knapsack containing $200,000, 10,000 bills of $20 each. They delivered the 4 parachutes. Cooper allowed all the 36 passengers and Schaffner, the flight attendant, to leave the plane. He kept the cockpit crew, pilot, co-pilot, flight engineer, and 1 flight attendant, Tina Mucklow, on board as hostages. While the plane was being refueled, Cooper outlined his flight plan to the pilots. It was weird. He wanted to fly to Mexico City, but he gave very specific instructions. Fly as slow as possible, about 100 knots. Fly as low as possible, under 10,000 feet. Leave the landing gear down. Leave the wing flaps down 15 degrees. Leave the cabin unpressurized. The pilots said, "We can't make it to Mexico City flying like that. We'll run out of fuel." Cooper said, "Fine, we'll refuel in Reno, Nevada." Chapter 5. The Jump. At 7:40 p.m., the plane took off again into the stormy night. 2 F-106 fighter jets were scrambled from a nearby airbase to follow the plane. But because Cooper ordered the plane to fly so slow and low, the fast fighter jets couldn't stay behind it. They had to circle above and below, losing sight of the plane in the clouds. Inside the cabin, Cooper told Tina Mucklow to go into the cockpit and close the door. He wanted to be alone in the back of the plane. As Tina walked away, she saw Cooper tying the bag of money to his waist. At 8 p.m., a warning light flashed in the cockpit. It indicated that the aft air stair, the rear staircase door found on Boeing 727s, had been opened. The pilot asked over the intercom, "Is everything okay back there?" Cooper shouted, "No." That was the last word anyone ever heard from him. At 8:13 p.m., the pilots felt a sudden change in air pressure. The tail of the plane dipped upwards as if a heavy weight had just fallen off the back stairs. Outside, it was pitch black. It was freezing rain. The wind was howling at 200 miles per hour. They were flying over the dense, rugged forests of Washington State. D.B. Cooper, wearing only a business suit, loafers, shoes, and a raincoat, had jumped into the dark void with $200,000 strapped to his chest. Chapter 6. The Empty Cabin. The flight crew sat in the cockpit, terrified. They watched the warning light flicker. They felt the cold wind rushing through the open door in the back, but they were too afraid to go check. Cooper had told them to stay in the cockpit or he would blow up the plane. For 2 hours, they flew with the rear stairs dragging in the wind. Finally, at 10:15 p.m., Flight 305 landed at Reno Airport in Nevada. The FBI was waiting. The moment the wheels touched the tarmac, agents surrounded the plane with guns drawn. They expected a shootout. They ordered Cooper to come out. Silence. The agents stormed the plane. They moved cautiously down the aisle, checking behind every seat. They reached the back row. Seat 18C was empty. The rear door was wide open, the stairs dangling just a few feet above the runway. D.B. Cooper was gone. He left behind only 2 things: 8 cigarette butts, which the FBI later lost, and a cheap black clip-on tie with a mother-of-pearl tie clip. Chapter 7. The Manhunt Begins. The FBI launched one of the most extensive manhunts in U.S. history. It was codenamed NORJAC, Northwest Hijacking. They calculated the flight path, the wind speed, and the time of the jump. They figured Cooper must have landed somewhere near Ariel, Washington, near Lake Merwin. It was a rugged wilderness area, thick forests, steep canyons, and freezing rivers. Hundreds of soldiers from the National Guard, FBI agents, and police officers combed the woods. They used helicopters and even a submarine to search the lake. They went door to door in local towns. They checked records for missing men. They found nothing. No parachute, no briefcase, no body. It was as if the earth had swallowed him whole. Chapter 8. The Fatal Flaw. The FBI profile of D.B. Cooper began to change. At first, they thought he was a genius James Bond-type criminal. But as they analyzed the jump, they realized Cooper might have been crazy or stupid. Why? The weather. He jumped into a freezing rainstorm at night. The wind chill was well below zero. He was wearing a business suit and loafers. Even if the fall didn't kill him, hypothermia would have set in within hours. The parachute. Cooper had requested 4 parachutes. The FBI gave him 2 primary chutes and 2 reserve chutes. In his rush, he grabbed 1 primary and 1 reserve. But here is the kicker. The reserve chute he grabbed was a dummy chute used for training. It was sewn shut. It didn't work. The experience. He didn't ask for a helmet or goggles. An experienced skydiver would never jump into a 200-mile-per-hour wind without eye protection. The FBI concluded he probably didn't survive the jump. But if he died, where was the body? Chapter 9. The Discovery at Tenna Bar. 9 years passed. The world moved on. D.B. Cooper became a folk hero. Songs were written about him. T-shirts were sold. Then, on February 10, 1980, an 8-year-old boy named Brian Ingram was digging a fire pit on a sandy riverbank known as Tenna Bar, about 20 miles from Ariel, Washington. Brian's shovel hit something soft. He pulled out 3 bundles of rotting, rubber-banded cash. It was $5,800 in $20 bills. The edges were rounded and smoothed by water. The FBI rushed to the scene. They checked the serial numbers. It was a match. This was the Cooper ransom money. This discovery changed everything. Theory A. Cooper died, landed in a river, and his body washed away, leaving the heavy money behind buried in the sand. Theory B. Cooper survived, buried some of the money to come back for later, but never returned. The FBI dug up the entire beach. They found no other trace, no bones, no parachute, just the money. Chapter 10. The Suspects. Over the decades, the FBI investigated over 1,000 suspects. A few stood out. Richard McCoy, an expert skydiver who hijacked a plane in 1972 using the exact same method as D.B. Cooper. He was caught and imprisoned, but he was home having Thanksgiving dinner with his family on the night of the Cooper hijacking. The FBI ruled him out, mostly. Robert Rackstraw, a former special ops pilot with a criminal history. He looked like the sketch. He had the skills, but he claimed he was innocent until the day he died. Sheridan Peterson, a smoke jumper who actually worked for Boeing. He knew the plane inside out, but there was no hard evidence linking him. In 2016, after 45 years of searching, the FBI officially announced they were closing the case. They reasoned that the resources and money used to hunt a man who was likely dead could be better spent on modern crimes. Chapter 11. The Ghost in the Sky. So what happened to Dan Cooper? Did he splatter on impact in the dark woods? Did he freeze to death, his body eaten by coyotes? Or did he land safely, hike out of the woods, and live the rest of his life watching the news, laughing at the FBI? We have the tie, we have the money, we have the plane ticket, but we don't have the man. He remains the only person in aviation history to hijack a commercial airliner in the United States and get away with it. Somewhere in the deep forests of Washington State, underneath layers of pine needles and dirt, there might be a skeleton wearing a suit and a Rolex. Or maybe, just maybe, an old man is sitting in a bar somewhere right now, ordering a bourbon and soda, keeping the greatest secret in American history. And that is the legend of D.B. Cooper. It's the perfect mystery because it has no ending. We want him to have survived because we love the idea of the underdog beating the system, but logic tells us he probably died in the cold. I want to know your theory. Check the pinned comment below. I'm putting a poll there. Dead or alive? Vote now. And hey, if you enjoyed this flight into history, please like and subscribe. It helps the channel more than you know. Thanks for watching, and keep your eyes in the sky.